Very often when I think about Christmas, and I try to make my thinking go beyond the turkey and the Christmas trees and the family gatherings and the presents I need to buy and hope to receive and the impossible to-do list to make it all happen, when I go beyond that and think about the account in the Bible of Jesus coming down to earth, I picture the birth of Jesus very often as I picture a school or a church nativity scene, and that's good and bad. Now, I love nativity plays. They're brilliant, of course. Brilliant when they go right, and even more brilliant when anything goes wrong. So when you picture them, they tend to all have something in common, don't they? At some point, Mary and Joseph are there, and the baby Jesus, centre stage, and then they're all there. All the key characters, shepherds, magi, even if officially they come later, they're there, angels, and sometimes a good number of creatively added extras. Everyone arrives to see the newborn king, our saviour, who came down to earth. But most often, each character, having arrived, simply positions themselves somewhere on the scene and simply sits or stands there looking towards Jesus. In other words, each character arrives on stage and everyone, especially parents and family, hopes they will stand or sit as motionless as possible. I remember once thinking how my son had absolutely mastered this sitting still element as a shepherd before realising that he'd actually just fallen asleep. In some ways this is fine. How else would you do a play? And what else would you do with all the kids involved if they simply wandered off the stage to random places whilst the play continues? But of course that's not what actually happens. No one stays in the nativity scene. Everyone we picture in that scene moves on. And in their everyday lives, they are changed by their encounter with Jesus. Today, the down-to-earth challenge is for each of us to do the same. In the reading from Luke 2, 15 to 21, have you ever noticed how few words are actually devoted to the shepherd's encounter with Jesus? There's less than half a verse devoted to their time around the manger. It's all about the action either side of that encounter. So even the words we do have in verse 17, when they had seen him, are used to convey the shepherds moving on. The whole account is focused firstly on the absolute resolve to investigate the angel's news. It's hard for English translations to do justice to the level of urgency that there is here. But they make their investigation a priority, and subsequently the shepherds celebrate, leaving to tell others, glorifying and praising God. The shepherds then don't, as far as anyone can tell, change their profession and become full-time ministers or priests or give up their jobs to be among Jesus's closest disciples 30 years later. Jesus will call some to do that, of course, but others, like the shepherds here, are called to return to their work but be changed by their encounter with Jesus. And the shepherds are changed. They pass on the angel's news and others are amazed. And the same is true for Mary, but in a different way. The description of her contemplating, of her treasuring and pondering the events in her heart, described the whole of her life far beyond the moments in the nativity scene. But we shouldn't confuse Mary's contemplation with being static.
This statue of Mary in the grounds around Salisbury Cathedral is by the artist Dame Elizabeth Frink and is known as the Walking Madonna. Frink's opinion was that so many of the paintings and sculptures of Mary that we have her sitting or standing still or holding the baby Jesus motionless. There's nothing wrong with those depictions, but the artist's point here is that Mary is a working woman, an active mum. So Frink has Mary standing and striving, working and walking. And this helps us, I think, to picture Mary differently. Now, when this artwork was first placed in the grounds of Salisbury Cathedral, there was an important decision to make. Which way should Mary face? Should they have Mary walking into the cathedral to worship, or should they have her walking out to continue her life of worship? And I'm so glad they chose to position Mary as they have, walking out into the city with the good news that she's received. Also, as you can see, she's not on a plinth. She is literally down to earth in the sense of being on our level. As a result, people engage and respond to her in different ways. You can see how worn down her hand has got from people holding it. People are responding to somebody who has been touched by Jesus and then takes that message out into their everyday lives. The challenge is for each of us to do the same, to respond in our everyday lives as people who have met Jesus and reflect him in all we do.
So, as beautiful as the nativity scene is, no one stays there, and nor should we. For me today, this means learning from the shepherds and Mary. Advent is an opportunity to investigate and celebrate and contemplate. And so, if everybody in the nativity scene leaves the scene, if they don't stay by the manger, and if they then live their down-to-earth everyday lives in the reality of the encounter with Jesus, may the same be true for us. May we all carry the unchanging truths of Christmas into our week, into our year ahead, into the places we're called to live and work and rest and play, changed for the better by this encounter with our down-to-earth Saviour.